Alright, good morning. So from where I am now, I'm actually only about 27 miles from the road where I can hitchhike into Lake City. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how close Silverton is to Lake City because I really did not go far yesterday. Um, and today the plan is basically just to get close to that road and tomorrow morning hitchhike into Lake City. Just because, I don't know, I mean, I could go all the way and then hitchhike in, but then I gotta like pay to, stay somewhere or whatever. But I feel like it just makes sense just to camp right before, hitchhike into Lake City tomorrow, get a resupply on food, and hitchhike back out basically, and then continue on. So I definitely could have just packed more food and skipped Lake City, or I could have skipped Silverton. Most people actually skip Silverton and just go to Lake City, but anyway, doesn't really matter as long as I do more than 20 miles today. Like, I'll be within range of easily getting to Lake City tomorrow. So kind of just take it easy today. But yeah, before I get moving, I'm actually gonna have this granola. So it's granola with milk, blueberries. Yeah. Anyway, it's definitely like, overpriced granola or whatever because it's like freeze dried and all that. But it would be a nice morning breakfast. I don't normally have like an actual breakfast really. I just eat snacks as I go. But yeah, anyway, gonna have that now and then get moving. So this is actually ice on the trail. So I think it was below freezing last night. It's definitely well above freezing now. It's nice and warm. It's like 9 a.m. But that was ice on the trail. And so, yeah, I did notice it felt a little bit colder than usual last night. So I guess it dropped below freezing. And it's probably partly because, well, I camped at about 12,500 feet, which is definitely the highest I've ever camped. So yeah, sleeping at 12,500 feet, definitely a bit colder, and in quite like an open and exposed landscape, kind of in a valley, but basically closer to like a pass where like it can drop down into the valley. So yeah, pretty high elevation, but it's good. I'm getting used to the altitude. Definitely still notice that I'm more out of breath than I normally would be, especially when I'm trying to talk to the camera. But yeah, it was a little cold last night, but nothing that kept me awake or anything. I was actually very happy with where I chose to camp last night though, because a lot of this area is just open, exposed, kind of grassy slopes, and I think actually being in between those bushes made a very big noticeable difference. As soon as I left the bushes this morning, I could notice a difference in temperature. So just being like in that enclosed area surrounded by bushes really helped. And I didn't pitch the tarp, I just cowboy camped, but yeah, it was a nice little spot. You see all the flowers are facing the direction of the sun actually. They're all facing the same way. It's quite cool. I wouldn't only just noticed that. But when you're walking this way, every flower is facing one way. And then you look back and you see the faces of all the flowers. It's cool. Also, one of the differences that I've noticed so far between Colorado and New Mexico is that in New Mexico it felt like everyone I was meeting, all the locals, were like, really from New Mexico and had lived there their whole lives and maybe generations going back in New Mexico, and so they felt like true New Mexicans, I guess. Whereas in Colorado, feels like a lot of the people I meet in Colorado, obviously not all the time, but a lot of them are people that have moved to Colorado. Actually a lot of people from Texas, which is cool, but I definitely get more of a feeling like everyone is kind of just coming to Colorado and it doesn't feel, I mean, obviously in like that mining town like Silverton, and I'm sure lots of the towns, probably like Durango and a lot of places in Colorado, you do, I don't know, you don't really get a full sense of feeling like you're in like a locals town. Like there's cool history there, but when I was in New Mexico in the towns, really felt like I was, you know, in a local town, in a small town in New Mexico, where a lot of people don't really get to see, and I found that very interesting. Alright, so right now I have a pretty good view of actually where I've come from. So I'm going to zoom in. I came from, see if I can point, yeah, so I came from up there. There's a pass, and then I dropped down into the valley down there, and then somewhere, zoom out a bit, somewhere around here I crossed over, and there's a road. I don't know how well you can see it. There's a road here that I went along, and then I think you can see where the road goes. It comes up here basically. It's kind of hard to point, and then it goes trail along here somewhere. Yeah, you can see the trail down there, right? And then there's some switchbacks below me to get up to where I am now, but it's still got a bit higher to go. Alright, so I'm currently at the highest point that I've been at so far on this trail. It's also the highest point on the Colorado Trail, so it's not the highest point on the CDT. The highest point on the CDT is over 14,000 feet on Gray's Peak, but this is the highest point on the Colorado Trail at, I think it's like 13,333 feet. I might be wrong, but that's what it says on the maps, which is over 4,000 meters actually. It's like 4,070 meters or something like that. So yeah, pretty crazy. It's pretty cool to hit that 4,000 meter mark as well. But yeah, 13,333 feet. So I actually went off trail a bit to get to this highest point. The trail's not far. It's like, I don't know, a couple hundred meters away or something. I'll actually show you basically, I'll show you the view. So the trail is over there. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right spot, but there's a marker over there. When I get back to the trail, I'll show you the marker. It's a sign saying that you're at the highest point on the Colorado Trail. And the view on this side is cool, but it's not as crazy as the other side. I'll show you. So this is a pretty nice view here. I mean, I've had better views so far on the CDT, But this is really cool. I mean, this is still an amazing view, and it's the highest point so far, so yeah, pretty cool. Alright, so originally I figured I'd go a bit beyond this, like at least another 1.5 miles. But I think this seems like quite a nice place to camp. I think there's going to be a nice sunset, and there's lots of bushes here, so kind of similar to last night where I camped. Alright, so I decided to set up camp here. It's kind of in a saddle between two hills, and there's a nice view of the mountains, and getting a nice sunset right now. I'll show you in a sec. But I just set up my tarp, and with the bug net. The main reason I actually set up the tarp was just so that I could pitch the bug net, because there are actually quite a few mosquitoes here. It's not too bad. I mean, it's definitely the most mosquitoes that I've had so far on the trail, but I got to get used to it. I know that probably at some point in Wyoming I'm going to have way more mosquitoes than this. So anyway, it's not too bad, but it's worth setting up the bug net for it. So anyway, let me show you the setup and I'll show you the sunset. So as you can see, the sun is starting to go behind the mountains. It's kind of difficult to pick up that kind of view because, you know, I'm pointing the camera straight at the sun. But I think maybe we'll get better after the sun actually goes behind the mountains. And then here's my top right here. So I just use this one stick, and then I could have found a second stick to pitch the other end. Like, you know, sometimes I put a second stick like right there in the middle. But this is good enough the way it is. And as you can see, the bug net is pitched. It's a little bit slack. It's not like really tight or anything, but it's no big deal. Still plenty of room under there, so it fully covers my whole setup. Yeah, pretty simple. Keep me away from the bugs. And there is a slight breeze coming from this direction, like coming towards me. So this will actually shelter me really well, because on the other end it's like really low to the ground, so I basically won't get any breeze coming that direction. But yeah, it was a really nice day. I still have about 7 miles to reach the highway tomorrow morning, where I'll hitchhike into Lake City. Planning to just go into Lake City for I don't know how long, just long enough that I can get my resupply, maybe get lunch there and charge all my electronics up and then keep going. So I'm not planning on spending the night there. Just don't really feel like I need to. You know, I was just in Silverton not long ago. So anyway, took it pretty easy today. Didn't do a huge number of miles or anything, but, you know, really stopped for a long time at some of the nice viewpoints. especially up at that high point. I stopped there for a while. It wasn't very windy today, probably like the least windy day so far. But yeah, I didn't really see anyone today. I saw one guy, but very briefly. Those other three people, Boomerang, Pale Ale and Sprouts, I assume are probably not far ahead. I doubt they went into Lake City today, but they might have. I'm guessing I might see them tomorrow morning if I get up early enough. If not, maybe I'll see them in town. But yeah, we'll see.